Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I'm Batsir Namshir. On News Mongolia today, Cabinet hopes to save 535.9 billion MNT through state spending cuts. Active Aging, Building an Age-Friendly Society Regional Forum held in Ulaanbaatar. His Majesty Emperor Naruhito and Her Majesty Queen Masako to pay a state visit to Mongolia. For the news, stay tuned. The Cabinet has announced plans to save 535.9 billion MNT in state funds as part of broader fiscal tightening measures in response to a projected 2.3 trillion MNT revenue shortfall. Under the state savings law, 130 stalled projects will be suspended while the Cabinet prepares a budget amendment to cut spending by 1.8 trillion MNT. Structural reforms will reduce bureaucracy, shrink the civil services by 20%, and downsize state-owned entities without impacting salaries, pensions, or child benefits. According to the law on state savings, any project or program included in the annual budget that has not completed procurement or signed contracts by May 31st will be subject to cost-saving measures. As of May 31st, 130 projects have been designated for cost savings amounting to 535.9 billion MNT. In other words, this 2.3 trillion MNT is the projected shortfall in revenue. Of this amount, we have already saved 535 billion MNT under the law on state savings. I would like to clarify that the upcoming budget amendment will reflect a reduction of 1.8 trillion MNT. We are adjusting our expenditures in line with the revenue shortfall, which means we are adhering to the rule of maintaining a deficit-free budget. Although the volume of coal exports has not significantly decreased, declining revenues have started to negatively impact key macroeconomic indicators. As this trend is not expected to change in the near future, the Cabinet has decided to reduce budget expenditures by at least 2.3 trillion MNT. To accompany this adjustment, the Cabinet has submitted a proposal to restructure its composition. This includes plans to reduce the number of national committees, currently around 60, by 50%, and to cut approximately 20% of the 1,900 public servants currently working in the 16 ministries. The Cabinet also announced that it will implement policies to downsize state-owned enterprises and companies. Many department and division heads in ministries and agencies are overly bureaucratic, and some even place value on their signatures, seek kickbacks, or engage in corrupt practices that burden citizens. To address these issues, we aim to create a leaner, more competent and accountable civil service. We have made the decision to restructure the ministries accordingly. Let me state this clearly. Among the 1,900 staff currently employed across Mongolia's 16 ministries, we will reduce this number by approximately 20%. I will avoid mass layoffs as much as possible. Instead, we will implement targeted organizational measures. This isn't about arbitrarily firing people. The goal is to streamline positions, eliminate redundant roles, merge or dissolve overlapping agencies, and consider outsourcing certain public services to the private sector. This is a part of our broader plan to reduce the size of the civil service. In implementing budget amendments, the Cabinet said it would focus on eliminating operational overlaps within the civil service, streamlining leadership and operational roles, and reducing the number of managerial positions. It also affirmed that its current expenditure reduction plan will not cut salaries, pensions, or child benefits. Mongolia hosted the Asia-Pacific Regional Forum on Active Aging, Building an Age-Friendly Society in Ulaanbaatar. Representatives from 10 countries gathered to advance efforts toward adopting the UN Convention on the Rights of Older Persons and to strengthen social protection and inclusion for the elderly. Mongolia hosted the Asia-Pacific Regional Forum on Active Aging, Building an Age-Friendly Society in Ulaanbaatar. Representatives from 10 countries gathered to advance efforts toward adopting the UN Convention on the Rights of Older Persons and to strengthen social protection and inclusion for the elderly. The National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia hosted the Asia-Pacific Forum on Creating an Inclusive Society for Active Aging. The forum brought together representatives from multiple countries across the region to discuss advancing the adoption of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Older Persons. During the event, participants emphasized the urgent need to enhance the social protection and participation of older persons in Mongolia. They expressed strong support for Mongolia to join international efforts to promote and protect the rights of the elderly, recognizing it as a timely and necessary step.
Each country has a different population of older persons and varying measures and experiences in safeguarding their rights. This forum is an opportunity to explore what lessons we can learn from one another, what good practices could we consider and share with others, what problems remain unresolved or worse, neglected either due to a lack of a state policy or societal indifference. Our goal with this forum is to focus more deeply on these issues and move toward meaningful solutions. Elderly people often face discrimination simply due to their age. They are overlooked, unable to access public services, and experience significant challenges with inclusivity. These are pressing issues that must be addressed. That's why continuous research and regular dialogue are essential. Only through this process can we identify and implement effective and targeted solutions. Amendments to the Law on Elderly Persons, which took effect on January 1, 2025, introduced the concept of quality aging. This idea encompasses all the key elements discussed in the Convention, from employment opportunities and livelihood challenges to pensions, welfare, and access to healthcare and long-term care for elderly individuals in need. These topics are now receiving the attention they deserve.
At the conclusion of the forum, participants adopted the Ulaanbaatar Call to Action, a declaration supporting initiatives that enhance the protection of older persons' rights. More than 30 foreign guests and delegates from 10 countries across the Asia-Pacific region took part in the forum. You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs. At the invitation of President of Mongolia, Okhnagin Khurelsukh, His Majesty Emperor Naruhito and Her Majesty Queen Masako will pay a state visit to Mongolia from July 6th to 13th, 2025. President Khurelsukh and His Majesty Emperor Naruhito will hold official talks to further deepen the friendly ties and long-standing cooperation between Mongolia and Japan. His Majesty Emperor Naruhito and Her Majesty Queen Masako are also expected to attend the opening ceremony of the National Nadam Festival and participate in other ceremonial events as guests of honor. This historic visit will make a significant step forward in strengthening the special strategic partnership for peace and prosperity between the two countries, which share democratic values and a commitment to people-centered cooperation. His Majesty Emperor Naruhito last visited Mongolia in 2007 as Crown Prince in celebration of the 35th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this will be His Majesty Emperor Naruhito and Her Majesty Queen Masako's first state visit to Mongolia. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. The United Nations has issued a warning of the worsening conflict in Sudan, describing the situation as increasingly deadly for civilians trapped in the violence. The independent international fact-finding mission for Sudan called it a crisis of humanity, pointing to the growing use of heavy weapons in civilian populated areas.
Humanitarian organizations operating in Sudan report that the conflict has triggered a severe crisis, forcing widespread displacement and leaving millions in urgent need of aid. Access to basic services continues to deteriorate amid ongoing fighting.
Each side blames the other, but the result is the same. Aid is being strangled and the civilians are being starved. These are intentional acts. The targeting of food, medicine, survivors, and aid workers are violations of international law.
Despite an existing UN arms embargo on Sudan, investigators have collected testimonies indicating that illegal arms continue to enter the country, fueling the violence. Finding mission stressed that the continued flow of weapons is prolonging the conflict.
There is a direct link between the flow of arms in Sudan, armed hostilities, and the resulting violence amounting to violations of international humanitarian law and human rights violations.
While international bodies call for tighter enforcement of the embargo, some Sudanese analysts argued that the restrictions could pose a risk to national security. Sudan remains mired in over 2 years of fighting between the National Army and the Rapid Support Forces, with all mediation efforts so far ending in failure.
Now let's take a look at global current affairs.
Heavy downpours caused rivers to swell in China Saturday, prompting hydropower stations in Henan province to discharge floodwaters, according to state broadcaster CCTV. In Guangxi province, residential homes were submerged on Friday under up to 3 meters of water. Footage from CCTV showed rescue teams deploying rubber boats to evacuate stranded residents. Meanwhile, in Anhui province, rescue workers were deployed to flooded areas Friday with sandbags, while other workers cleared more than 20 fallen trees blocking roads across the city. Authorities in Henan province have already rescued over 53,000 people, according to CCTV. China's National Development and Reform Commission allocated 50 million yuan for emergency recovery efforts in flood-stricken regions.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.